What is up, homies? Welcome back to Doing Stuff with Diana. On this channel, we talk about MLMs and any other shenanigans I get myself into. So if you're interested, please subscribe. Today, we have a very special guest. His name is Husband, and we're going to talk about his perspective when it came to me being in an MLM, which was Amway. I have a few questions, more than a few questions to ask him. I feel like a lot of people on YouTube don't get that perspective from the spouse or the family member that sees you go through that BS. So I think it's a very interesting way of telling the story from an, how do you say that? Outer perspective.
Outside perspective?
Yeah. So my first question today is, when I first explained the business to you, what did you think?
Well, I remember we were talking over the phone, and I had just outright asked, I'm like, hey, do you know what a pyramid scheme is? And you kind of went on a whole rant about, yes, I know what it is, it's completely different, and you continued to like explain all the ways that they say it's different, and all of those things. And then you went on some other rant about the Ponzi scheme, and at that point I was just like, okay, so I continued to listen to you. And like you started asking, what I wanted to do long term, and I explained the line of work that I was in, the plans that I've already made, like the savings that I already had. And you told me from there on, like, how all of that is wrong. And I was like just really confused because I'd lived a lot of my life, working for those things, trying to figure out how to obtain sustainability and get myself into a good career path. I was in the military at the time, and I just felt like I had a lot of things going for me, so it was just weird to like not hear that from someone.
Yeah, because at that time, in my head I thought, you're stuck in that 9 to 5. What do you mean you're successful? What do you mean it's good what you're doing? And so I happened to ask you that at a point in time where I was just deep in the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, and I remember, like, no offense, like at one point the thought crossed my mind, like, why is this stripper telling me I'm unsuccessful?
Fuck you. Wait. Because, babe, I was set to be successful in this MLM, don't you know?
And look, where did that bring you?
Fuck you.
Back to me.
Oh, God. Very good point, though. I did not think about that at that time when I was talking trash to you. My second question is, even though I was mean to you and stuff in the beginning, trying to introduce this business to you, you eventually did join. Why is that?
Well, for me, at a certain point, like, I realized that it was the main focus of your time, and I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to be part of like everything you were doing because, I was just in love with you. For me, I felt kind of like I had to be involved in it in some degree just because of how big of a part of your life it was at that point in time.
Oh, okay. You saw me doing this, going to this convention, talking to that, so it's kind of like, well, I'm your partner. Shouldn't I be involved in it too?
Right, and then on top of like, what we talked about earlier with you saying that like a lot of my career choices and life choices were going to get me to, X, Y, and Z from what you'd been taught by them, like it just felt weird for me to just dismiss you saying all that without actually seeing what it is that you're doing.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Kind of like I talk trash about your successful career and stuff. Okay, well, what is she doing that's even better than this,
Right, because like in honesty, like part of it was, well, if she's so confident in it and this is the woman that I'm going to be with, like let me see what's going on. Like if it's that important a part of her life, I feel obligated to have some sort of involvement.
That makes sense. My next question is, did you at some point have faith in it?
I will say like some of the, not the little meetings, because I honestly struggle to stay awake in all of those, but, and I struggled to stay awake through most of them, but I think that some of the speeches were uplifting and like generated, some positive feelings and stuff like that, and it felt good in the moment. but I'll say like it's like crack, like it's a very quick high.
Yes. And I think that's why they have these big meetings, I think once every month or so, because, you know, you get on that high and then you start doubting and then you start doubting. Oh, next meeting, get back on that high of motivation.
Right. Because I remember the first one that I went to with you, you know, it was very like enlightening feeling, it was very elevated feeling, and we went to it on, I believe it was a Sunday, and I had work the next day, and I went into work, and just immediately that feeling was gone. Like once I got back into my regular flow of things, like I kind of realized how fairy tale all of that was.
Ah, I see.
So for every moment that I had where I thought, okay, maybe there's something to this, there was immediately, you know, that realist part of my brain was always like, no, there's absolutely nothing.
They don't got nothing on this real life world.
Yeah.
Opposite question. When did you realize this was a scam?
I feel like from the beginning, I questioned the authenticity of it just because growing up, my dad has owned several like legitimate businesses.
Legitimate? Excuse you, sir.
Yeah, like he had a full license, an actual office, employed people, sold a product, and, you know, none of it was locked behind all that stuff the MLMs put up, like not telling you how exactly you're going to make your money, lying to you about if they get kickbacks or not. Like, it was a genuine business that sustained our family, like, out the gate.
Out the gate? Really?
Yes, because just the way that a normal business works, yeah, you're going to pour money into it, but if it's a real working business, it'll become sustainable. You don't have to keep finding customers because the business eventually the product will run itself.
Self-sustaining.
Yes.
That's funny because I always thought you poured money in, and then maybe after a couple of years you start seeing an income with a real business.
Right, and just seeing the way that they were telling us to do things or telling you to do things, and the way that they modeled the business and how it was just the complete opposite of everything my dad did, it just never really clicked because obviously my dad's not unsuccessful. And if they're saying that's the only way to be successful, then someone's lying, and I grew up with the other guy.
So basically you only have faith in it due to the motivational speaking and the fact that I was in it.
For me, it was more so from the beginning, like, I don't think that I ever had like a reasonable thought that it would work out. I just knew that you were my girlfriend and I needed to stand by you. I made the choices that I made to, you know, at least try it with you and not make you feel bad about your decisions.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Kind of like, okay, she's doing something stupid, but what can I do? She seems pretty happy about it.
One of my goals was to show you that, listen, I have a lot more of a stable job and I'm able to afford like what they're expecting us to spend, and I promise you it's still not going to work, which is like in my head, like I thought that it would kind of show you like, even though I'm doing what they said, I bought all these things and did exactly how they said to do it, I didn't make money.
So you had a secret plot the whole time.
I feel like I had to.
Yeah, to like eventually show me that I was wasting money.
Right, because I thought that, you know, in your head it would kind of make that connection that, okay, he makes this much more than me and he like can't make a profit off of this, and it's even a little costly to him. Like, what am I doing?
Wow. Yeah. Because at that time, you know, I wasn't making much. Half of my income was going towards that. Whereas for you, it was probably like, whatever.
Yeah.
Few hundred, whatever. Next question.
Okay.
What were some of the red flags you noticed?
The first one that ever stuck out to me is when you first brought it up to me, and you described a pyramid scheme. Growing up where I grew up in Albuquerque, like just being in, you know, a less affluent neighborhood, those things come through all the time. Like, you always get a cousin or an aunt who's like, oh, I'm going to be the rich one in the family. I've got this figured out. And if you have someone like my dad who's actually successful and has built a business, he tells you, no, son, that's a fucking pyramid scheme.
Oh, so you were around that when you saw the auntie being like, I'm going to be rich.
Yeah.
Your dad was straight up like, no.
I knew what they were. So that's why when you described it to me, like, the first thought to go through my mind is maybe she doesn't know what that is. maybe she hasn't grown up around that and seen that kind of stuff. So I asked, like, okay, do you know what a pyramid scheme is? And the first red flag was when you immediately started breaking down, no, it's not a pyramid scheme, which is like the number one thing people say when it's a pyramid scheme.
That's so embarrassing. Yeah. Well, it's because in my head, they taught me the difference. And I guess I still couldn't differentiate them.
I don't know if you realized it during the conversation, but I kept trying to get you to realize what you were saying. And I would ask you, like, okay, so you get 2 people under you, and then they get, like, 2 people each under them? And you're like, yes, exactly. And I'm like, so it's you, then a bigger level, then an even bigger level.
Yes. It's not the same.
So that was the first major red flag. The second one was, for those of you who don't know, like, I've worked with the Air Force a lot. I was in the Air Force. So through that, I've worked with Boeing and Lockheed Martin a lot over my life. And when we went to meet Diana's mentor for the first time, he started talking about that he worked with Boeing and he chose to go with Amway because it was just way better and more successful. And like the first red flag that came up is that everything he was saying about Boeing was a lie.
Because you sort of worked with them.
Yeah. Like everything from the salary he claimed to have had while he was with them to the lifestyle he was claiming to have lived to, I would casually try to drop things about that industry into conversation and he would gloss over it and completely move on to the next thing. And it was just so inconsistent. Like he would say that he was head of marketing for Boeing? Mm-hmm. Which...
Head of like a business consultant. Business consultant for Boeing. Mm-hmm.
Which, first of all, I don't know how you're a business anything if you don't know and understand the main product of your client. So the fact that he couldn't talk aircraft with me for even a second was weird.
That's true. He should have at least the surface knowledge of what's going on with that. Yeah.
And then beyond that, like he would describe like the lifestyle of someone who makes, minimum wage, but the position that he said he held is a well into upper class wage.
Mm-hmm. That must have been huge if he couldn't live that lifestyle.
Yeah, he just had a lot of inconsistencies in what he was saying about that kind of stuff. From there, just like at the bigger meetings, like, and this isn't to be judgmental, but just the type of people I was seeing there. We would run into like the karaoke DJ from the place we used to go do karaoke at.
Yeah.
Friends of mine from high school, or like just other stuff like that. None of those are people who had lifestyles that were any better than mine. Like, my lifestyle at that point in time was far better than any of those people we ran into, and they'd already been in it for years.
Oh, wow.
So to me, that was kind of like an enormous red flag of hopelessness. Like, I've been in the military as long as these people have been doing this.
What are they getting out of it?
Exactly. Why am I so far ahead of them right now? Mm-hmm. If this really works, like they've been doing it for however many years now, like, are you telling me they just suck at it? I feel like that's just impossible. Like, I feel like even in a minimum wage position, you'll eventually be like an assistant manager after 5 years.
And here's the thing. They would tell you, yes, I haven't been doing the work that it takes to be in this business. That's why I'm not doing good. They would themselves tell you that. That's what they sum it up to.
Right. And I think that the biggest red flag of all was when we were at that one meeting, like the in-house one, and your mentor dude was asking everyone in the room, like, how much debt do you have? How much debt do you have? And then he got to me, and he's like, okay, how much debt do you have? I'm like, none. And he's like, what about this debt and this debt? I'm like, nope, none of that. And he's like, okay, well... And he just didn't know what to say. It got awkward. Like, the fact that it was awkward for them to work with someone who was stable.
Yeah.
Like, just seemed bizarre to me. Like, if you're trying to build a business, like, financial assets, like, I'm not saying that people with debt shouldn't have a shot at that, but if you're someone who's actually a millionaire like they say they are, why are you going to pick all these people that are more likely to be, unstable and irresponsible with the money?
kind of like they already have all these other responsibilities they got to take care of.
Right.
Plus, in my head, when that happened, I was proud of you. I remember feeling like, yeah, look at him, you know, he's already a step ahead in that he doesn't have to deal with building a business and dealing with debt. But it's weird that that wasn't seen as a good thing.
Yeah, like he had nothing to say. There was no like, oh, congrats, good for you, or
yeah.
It's because it just seemed like his typical person that he goes after, his typical, you know, customer is going to have that. So when it doesn't happen, it just seems weird. And a lot of those interactions I had with those people just seemed weird because it just felt like, it's like I was at a party where everyone was pretending to be someone they're not and I'm the only person who wasn't.
Yes. Kind of like he expects you to be in a shitty position in life. So when you're not, it's like, I don't know what to do with you. So just go over there.
Right.
My next question, sorry, I can't read. Why did you get out?
For me, honestly, it was, like I said earlier, I was trying to get you to see that even someone in my position couldn't sustain what they were asking for. And after a while, like I realized that wasn't getting through to you. And that was a big part of it, but like the thing that kind of pushed me over the edge to where I just couldn't stand to be involved in it anymore was my family has this yearly family gathering. It's a camping trip that we all do. And it really meant a lot to me that you go with me to that. Like, we'd only been together a few months at that point, but I felt, you know, that I should take you there to meet my family and that, you know, that was going to be the first time that you meet them all and it was going to be great. Like, it was something that we planned like months in advance and
bought the stuff for.
Yeah, like got all the supplies for, and then the morning of the trip when I was, you know, packing my car, getting ready to go, I called you and you said that you weren't going anymore because you felt like I wasn't focused enough on the business and that you weren't focused enough on the business and that the trip would just be a distraction for you. And I remember I begged and pleaded, like it destroyed me. And I spent like the whole camping trip just, you know, questioning like my decisions, questioning our relationship, just, you know, it really hurt. So then once I was done with the camping trip, that's when I finally decided to tell you, like, okay, I'm done with the business altogether. Because, and I told you straight up, like, I don't want to be involved in anything that makes you fight with me.
Yeah, because for me it was, looking back, I hate that I did that. But it was also for me, like, you can't help but notice that it was me putting the business in front of our relationship. And sometimes that's just not okay. Like, these people expect you to be not human and, you know, just be working all the time. But that was one of the moments where it was okay to be human and go experience life with you. You know what I mean? But at that time, I was like, no, the business. And yeah, I feel really bad about that. And we still didn't even get to go this year because of COVID, and I'm pregnant as fuck. If you could go back in time, would you say something different to me? Because keep in mind, at that time, you were probably scared I would break up with you if you wanted to quit and stuff. But now that you know that I wouldn't have and we'd be where we are now, do you think what you told me would be different?
Well, I was more scared that like you'd want to break up with me if I questioned what you were doing.
Okay.
Because, like, remember, like, at that time when you were in it, you know, your sister tried to bring up all that stuff with you, and you're extremely close to your sister, like, you have a really close family, and you straight up didn't talk to your sister for, like, a while after she told you that it was a scam, and, you know, you guys got kind of heated with each other about that. So for me, for the longest time, I was scared that, you know, she'll stop talking to her own family. Like, what's she going to do with me when we've only been dating for a few months? And that's how I saw it. But if I had known that, like, you wouldn't have broken up with me, I would have pushed a little harder. I'm not sure what I could have said, though.
Yeah, to this day, I'm still trying to think how someone like you could approach a family member, a loved one, nicely so that they listen to you and not get defensive right away. Because that's what happened with my sister.
Right. But with your sister, like, did she start out aggressive?
No.
So I'm just wondering, like, is there any way that I could have gone about it because it just doesn't, it seems like a guaranteed failure.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's any way I could have approached that or could have said anything other than what I did.
And hope that it gets through.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like every possible outcome is just bad if I try to question it, because you were so like invested in it at that point in time.
Yeah, it really was. So you're kind of like, I don't know, what would have said, maybe a little bit more pushy, but not
right, like maybe I wouldn't have
how.
joined to begin with.
Ah.
Because
okay.
looking back on it now, like I guess, you know, me being involved in it didn't prove what I wanted it to prove. So maybe me not joining at all would be more of a sign to you that, you know, it would make you have felt less supported in it, I guess.
My own husband doesn't want, my own boyfriend doesn't want to join. What's wrong with it? Yeah.
But other than that, I'm not sure what I could have done or said.
What was it like trying to support me after you quit?
At first it was hard. It was really hard just because, like, I could tell for like the first couple weeks after I quit that there was just like a lot of resentment towards me.
Yeah.
Like, it just felt like every time we would hang out, you were really distant. You know, I felt like I couldn't ask you about how your day was if you were doing something related to your business that day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the direction it seemed to go for a while. I remember I tried to tell you that I would buy products from you and stuff and keep supporting you in that way. And I did all that. I don't know, it was tough to find a way to like encourage you without feeling like you were doubting my encouragement because of me leaving.
Oh. It would only feel real if you were part of it, type deal.
Right, and that's what it seemed like, because there were a lot of times after I left where, you know, you would just outright say, like, oh, it just worries me that we have these different life goals.
Because of my earlier thoughts when I first tried to talk to you about it, about how you were sticking to the 9 to 5, and that's not what I wanted.
Right. Every time you would bring it up, you'd tell me stuff like, oh, it just upsets me that you quit on it and then you gave up on it. And I wanted so bad just to say, like, listen, I never believed in it. But that's just something I couldn't tell you.
It started a fight, for sure. Which is funny, because I feel like we fought the most while we were both in that business.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I feel like almost I would say like 100% of our actual fights to where, like, I felt genuinely mad or like there was genuinely a strain on us as a couple were during the time that you were in Amway.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And my last question. How did you feel when I started doubting the business?
I was so relieved. Because I remember it started, you were talking about the face wash or face lotion that made your skin feel oily.
Yeah, it was so greasy.
And you started like just talking about how much that sucked and it bothered you. So I kind of tried to, like, you know, it's like when you find just a little chip in the paint and you just start scraping at it to try to get everything off.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it was like. I saw, as soon as you said that, like, it just light bulbed in my head. I'm like, oh man, that's weird. I thought these were high quality products.
I think I do remember you saying that, actually. Like, what's up with that?
And you were like, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll ask, like, my mentors about it. So you talked to them and they told you just to use another product to cover up for that product's, like, incompetences. And then after that, you started talking about how the vitamins made you feel sick. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. You shouldn't feel sick off of, like, something that's supposed to make you healthier.
Yep.
And then finally, like, the big one for me was when you said, like, I just don't know how I can, like, sell these products to other people if they make me sick and make my skin oily. So at that point, I started telling him, like, yeah, it's just hard to back up, like, something that you don't think works. And, like, I kept saying things like that. And then on top of it, like, you know, as much as I was mad at the guy at the time, like, I'm grateful for RAKE now, because just him mistreating you and, like, being the asshole that he was,
yeah,
like, really pushed you in a direction to where you wanted to distance yourself from that.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things where whenever you would bring up, like, how mad he would make you and stuff like that, I would jump all over that. I would just immediately, like, yeah, that's unprofessional. That violates all their rules that they have.
Which, you're not lying. He should not be doing that stuff.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, go, because I knew the type of people that these were. So I'm like, go talk to your mentor about it. They'll do something. It's in the rules, right?
You did.
And you did, and I knew they wouldn't do a damn thing about it because they don't want to lose that income line.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as they didn't do anything about it, like, that's when it all started to crumble.
Because even though as much as there was a strain on our relationship, I don't date for bullshit. Like, I'm dating you to try to make a future with you. So for someone to like disrespect you and someone to talk trash about us, I was like, no. Like, that broke that brainwashing. I think one of the biggest cracks in it.
Right. So I just tried to capitalize on all those moments, like, when I saw them.
Yeah.
Because for me, that was like, you know, it's like you were getting gasps of air. So I was able to just encourage it so that you would chase after that until you realized, like, how fucked up the rest of it was.
And you're right. I did not realize that you were the one that encouraged me to go talk to my upline about what he was saying and stuff.
Right. And I remember at first it went like, okay, you know, you're not going to be buying as many products anymore. And then it went down to like, you know what, you're going to take a break from it. And
yep.
Then it went to like, okay, I'm not going to return their calls. I think I'm going to find something else. And then it, like, I finally knew that it was like completely gone when you wanted to start your YouTube channel. Like, that's when I knew for sure that you were out of it.
Out of the brainwash.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's why I helped you write like your first scripts and outline all of your first MLM videos.
Yeah.
Because, like, for me, it's like I was a pinched hose the whole time, and you finally just let it go. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's all bullshit. They did this, and this on this date.
He's an asshole. He's lying. Well, I appreciate you answering my questions. Anything else?
No, that's all I got.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Fuck MLMs. Fuck Amway. Don't let them break up your relationship. I appreciate that he dealt with all of my bullshit. Thanks for tuning in, homies. I will see you next time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'm on all platforms as MyMilkshake777 and Dog Paw Central on Instagram, pertaining to dog paws, because I got a dog paw fetish. Just kidding.